Hello and welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp. I'm your host, Andrew Moses, and I have a very, very special guest today, the one and only Reggie Love, commonly referred to by President Barack Obama as Reggie. Welcome aboard, Reggie.
Andrew, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun to be here today. I love the concept of your show.
Well, it's great to have you. And for those who don't know Reggie is the former personal aide to President Barack Obama. He's the author of the New York Times bestseller, Power Forward, My Presidential Education. We'll talk about that a little bit. Reggie was the captain of the 2004 Duke basketball team under Coach K, won the national championship with Duke in 2001, and is now vice president and head of external affairs at HRS Management. The list goes on. Welcome to the show, Reggie.
Great to be here. Thanks for the kind introduction.
Well, this show, Everybody Pulls the Tarp, is really built around one philosophy, Reggie. It's built around the philosophy that great teams and great organizations are powered by individuals who go far beyond the bounds of their job description. And you've certainly had some great leadership roles and some great jobs over the course of your career, which is also just getting started. So why don't we start at one of the more interesting roles you've held, the former personal aide to President Barack Obama. What is that role? Share with the audience a little bit about what goes into that.
Yeah, look, I think it's like a little bit of everything. Campaigns are probably one of the most grueling things you can go through. They start early in the morning, they go late through the night. There are all sorts of constituents from fundraisers, unions, teachers, economists, community relations, PR, media, press. I mean, there's just a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, and helping to really execute the daily schedule so that the candidate can be as productive as possible. So, and making sure that, appropriately prepped, has the right attire, knows where he is, has had 3 meals. I can remember days where I'd wake up in the morning and just would be walking around random towns in New Hampshire looking for scrambled eggs and bacon. And so, look, I think it's just the function of the job is to be on a team and to be part of a common goal, which was to elect a president that was a once in a lifetime type of figure, in anything that you could do to see that that come to fruition. For me, and I think for a lot of people who worked on that campaign, felt like that was worth it for them.
So you talk in your book about that the interview with then Senator Obama didn't go great in your mind, or you weren't sure that you were going to get the job. But when you're on the phone with the gentleman who asks you, what would you like to do for then Senator Obama, you say, "I'll do anything." And what inspired? I mean, what was the inspiration for you? When you said, "I'll do anything."
Yeah, look, that was Pete Rouse, and Pete Rouse was the chief of staff at the time. And I think a lot of people felt like they knew exactly what they wanted to do, where they wanted to be, what role. And I was 20. I was about to turn, I think I just turned 23 at the time. I'd never worked on a presidential campaign. I'd never been to the state of New Hampshire. And I kind of looked at it as an opportunity to take guidance, right? Like I love being on this team, and I trust you. So you tell me what you think is best for the team, and I'll go and I'll give it my best to do it, right? I can think back to times in college where we had these things called efficiency points, and Coach K would track it not only for games but in practice. And in an efficiency point, it was not only made shots and missed shots and rebounds and block shots and steals, those sort of things that traditionally come up in a stat column that you would see sort of on ESPN.com or in the local newspaper. But it also, he would keep track of how many screens you set away, how many screens you set on the ball, how many deflections, how many times you took a charge, like things that normally don't show up in traditional uh, statistical categories, like he would track because he knew how important they were to the success of the team, right? And I think that that was the mindset that I had when I got to DC, which was like, you know, hey coach, like, what do you need me to do?
So is it fair to say that, I mean, when you're on a stage as big as the president of the United States in terms of that platform, or Duke basketball, there's a lot of things that go into creating the finished product that maybe people don't see. In other words, there's lots
Look,
of
man,
big things, but there's tons of little things that if they don't get done, it doesn't work, right?
look, everything everything matters, and just because it doesn't get reported on or just because it doesn't make the news, it does not diminish the value of the finished product, right? Um, I never was on stage with the candidate or the president, but I would always go on stage to make sure that the remarks were on the podium, or I would go and put them on the podium. Uh, and most people who would watch on TV would never really take that into consideration. It's not really that big of a deal. But if the candidate walks up there and there are no remarks, that's like a big deal.
Or if the teleprompter goes out, I suppose, right? There's a backup.
Yeah. If the teleprompter goes out, I remember when we started getting teleprompters towards the end of the campaign. The candidate at that point in time would go on these things, these riffs, all the time, and he would say to me that the teleprompter operators, like the new ones, or the guys who hadn't worked with us in the past, would get lost. They would sort of, the riff would be like a paragraph, and the teleprompter operator would continue to scroll, and I would sit and train teleprompter operators. Uh, every new teleprompter operator that would come in, I would sit and like basically teach him how to operate the teleprompter for Barack Obama. Not
That's
in the job description.
not in the job description. I also, on your list of things, I remember in the book you talk about babysitting the children of other world leaders because it needed to be done, and handing a tie at the last minute to President Obama, or maybe then Senator Obama. What are some of the other kind of fun things just for the viewers? I mean, I pulled a lot of tarp in my day, but I don't know if I've ever babysat the children of a world leader.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if you remember Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the president of France. He and Carla Bruni had came over to have dinner with Michelle and President Obama, and it was like the night before the French state visit, and Sarkozy's son from his first marriage went to school in New York. And so the son came down to visit his father when he was on this official visit. And so the son shows up at the White House. It was like, well, and Sarkozy says, well, he can just hang out with Malia and Sasha while we like have our, our working dinner. And, and the first lady and the president were like, well, the girls have homework to do. So we can leave Nicholas with Reggie and he can like give him a tour, and like we had our own like
Leave him with Reggie.
Right. But we had a great time.
So you to be successful in any role, right? You have to build a process. You have to build a framework. I know, you started, I guess, when you guys were, if I recall the story that you shared with me once, when you guys were, figuring out who was going to do what on the team, you said, I'll go to the mailroom, right? There were thousands and thousands of letters coming in every day, and it needed to be sorted on the campaign. It needed to be reacted to a certain way. When he's president, they need to be reacted to a certain way. And you've talked in the past with me about how you built a system, a process. You didn't just take it for, hey, it's mail, I got to sort it. You kind of put a process in place around that. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first moved to DC, one of the first tasks that came to me, and it actually came to a group of staff assistants that then worked for Barack Obama in his Senate office, And Pete Rouse, he's like sitting with us all in Barack Obama's office as his U.S. Senate office, and we all think that this amazing thing is about to happen. They're going to ask us to like, help draft a piece of legislation that's going to go to the floor of the Senate, or travel with him on a cotel to the Middle East, or like something amazing, right? That you're in this environment. There's pictures of like Thurgood Marshall and Obama and Nelson Mandela and
Sure.
Muhammad Ali's gloves, and you just think like you're around all this greatness and some great things about to happen. And then Pete says, we got a problem in the mailroom, and everyone looks at each other, and I raise my hand and say, look, I'm happy to help. And so there had been a backlog of mail that was found and hadn't been responded to, and then what I decided to do is I came up with a way to sort of digitize our mail, so that we could open, review, and respond to mail in a faster way to help reduce the backlog.
It's amazing, right? I mean, something just seemingly simple. You take the initiative to go the extra mile, and it makes all the world of difference. And I think that that example, it's the same thing that you described with Coach K, right? Like the small things, the little things, sometimes make a big impact, and it's a great example. Let's talk about the time at Duke a little bit. What was it like playing under Coach K, and what was that environment like, and how did that shape you?
I mean, look, I was lucky enough. So I played football and basketball at Duke, and I was a walk on the basketball team. And for me, I kind of always like took it as like a privilege to be able to also to go out and play basketball. It was a game. It is a game that I still love, and I still try to play today. And so for me, the experience was amazing because I got to play with some of the best players that Duke had seen. Guys like Jason Williams, Carlos Boozer, Shane Battier, Chris Duhon. And then I got to learn every day from guys like Steve Wojciechowski, Chris Collins, Johnny Dawkins, Coach K, who were the coaches. And, they were true professionals about how they approached the game. And ultimately they taught me, like, one, how to study the game, and also how to to represent a brand. I had never been a part of an organization that had as much accolade as and had as much attention as Duke basketball had in the 2000s. And so, it really was an eye-opening experience for me around how you go out and not only play the game the right way on the court, but how you also carry yourself and represent the brand and the shield off the court.
So really, it thinking about everything that you do through the context of something bigger than just yourself, right? I mean, Duke basketball has a tradition and a long history and a future ahead of it. And is it fair to say, I mean, you really, that left an impact on you, that you were part of something extremely, extremely significant, that it was bigger than yourself?
Bigger than yourself, and you got to leave it better than you found it. And that ultimately, not only are you giving benefit to the program and the organization, but you're a part of a group of people that you'll be attached to forever. And when you come at it from that point of view, I think I always tell people when I give them advice that when they ask about careers and jobs and what they want to do, and I tell everyone that, like, no matter what it is you do, make sure that you can be excited to go full speed at whatever it is, because you can run the perfect play, but if you call the perfect play and run it at 80%, it most likely doesn't work. But if you call the wrong play but you run it at 110%, it may just hit, and
Yeah.
I'd rather always have teammates and friends running the right play, running full speed and playing with all their energy, and maybe not doing it perfectly, versus someone who's on a very like cautious path and not like full tilt.
What a great lesson, can be applied in any aspect of life. So obviously you are a tremendous leader, a tremendous person, who's accomplished a ton. Let's talk a little bit of, more about your time with the president and with Coach K. I'm sure they pulled their share of Tarp, too, right? Doing what needs to be done to get the job done. So maybe you could, share with our viewers a little bit about, maybe a story or something you observed, whether it's President Obama or Coach K, and how they went above and beyond and did something that maybe you wouldn't expect of them at their level.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think that both of these guys are tremendous leaders, and they, they have work ethics that are just tireless. And neither one of them would ever ask someone to do anything that they had not done before themselves or that they wouldn't do themselves. And that has always been the case. I mean, look, I can say, being the president of the United States is much different than being a college basketball coach. Like, I think Duke basketball is not democracy by any stretch of the imagination. There are no members of Congress. There's no I need to get these these 51 votes. I mean, there's a plan that Coach K comes up with, and like the plan is that we're all gonna go together as one, as a fist, and like go and execute. I think for as the president of the United States, I think it's a little bit more challenging because in leading you have to inspire. You've got to get people to believe in, and you got to get people to buy into your mission and your vision. And in that scenario, like everything that you say and everything that's said matters, right? And I can think of times during the campaign where after he had after the Nevada caucus, we had went to Georgia to speak at Ebenezer Church on MLK, the Sunday before MLK Day. And, he got in really late. The speech he was going through wasn't the way he thought it needed to be. And instead of like getting on the phone and like calling like the speechwriter and having them up all night, I think stayed up until like 3:00 in the morning, like making edits to a speech that he then got up at 8 a.m. to go deliver at a 9 a.m. service the next day. And didn't blink twice about it.
What does that do? What does that do for those around him, right? Forget the country that he's leading, right? But the people like you and others around him. Does it set the tone? Does it change the way you all behave to see the leader, regardless of whether it's or not it's the president of the United States? Does it change the way you behave? Does it set the tone?
I mean, I'm a true believer in that the best way to lead is by example. When I was my freshman year at Duke, Shane Battier, and it's so funny because everyone says like, well, Shane Battier like wasn't that good, and it's like when it comes down to it, like Shane Battier like wasn't the best athlete you'd ever seen. Like he was like, not the fastest, not the most explosive, but the guy played like the game like hard and was always like in the right spot, always showed up, was the first person in the gym, last person out of the gym, the most vocal. And like the expectation was that when you played on the court with Shane, you were going to play up to Shane's level. Like that was just like the standard. And I think like in all jobs in all organizations, like the folks who are at the top of the food chain, they set the tone and they set the culture that ultimately trickles down to the rest of the team. And if you can't lead by example, then I think you still will get people who work hard because they're people who are passionate, but you'll also have a group of people who feel like, I'm not going to be more bought in than the person who I work for.
Reggie, what great perspective, right? Again, it's these are fundamentals that anybody in any walk of life, in any business, in any organization, at any age, any level of experience can benefit from. It's been a absolute pleasure talking with you, Reggie. I want to give one more shout out to the book, so all the viewers can get all the stories from Reggie Love and learn more about the great experiences that you have to share. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Reggie. I hope you're doing well, staying safe, and
Thank you, Andrew.
I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, no, and to everyone out there, thank you for all the frontline workers who are out there fighting every day, and to all the people who are taking this virus very seriously and wearing the proper safety equipment and effectively socially distancing so that we can all get through this pandemic and see each other on the other side together. So, Andrew, thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone listening in today.
All right. Take care. And I'll see you soon, Reggie. Hopefully live and not virtual next time. Take care.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Charlie.